And now I'd like to introduce you formally and officially to Ron Thurston. Ron Thurston is an author of Retail Pride and a retail expert. Just this year, Ron was named one of the world's top 100 most influential people in retail and is a featured keynote speaker, podcast guest, and in-demand industry expert. As Vice President of Stores, Ron most recently led the retail organization for Intermix. He is also the former head of stores for North America and South America for Saint Laurent. He sits on the board of directors of Goodwill in New York and New Jersey, and is an advisory board member and mentor for several retail technology brands. So if anyone wants to knows what buyers want and how to reach them, it's Ron Thurston. Welcome, Ron. Let's talk about buyers.
Let's talk about buyers. Let's talk about retail, because retail doesn't happen without buyers.
No.
And buyers, need great product to buy every year, every season. So thank you. I'm really excited to be here, Beth and Sergio. Thank you so much. Just to reference the program that you so beautifully articulated, I wanted to just share my own experience writing a book. Because I think that there's a parallel here that's important, and it's not a fashion journey. It's a journey of leaning into expertise. So I had a blog for a while. I thought about, wow, I'm a decent writer. I wanted to understand what the audience really wanted. That you have to have all of that work that Sergio just described, all of that classwork done in advance. Because if someone's going to present you with an offer to buy, you better be ready to go. And that includes all of the things that are not fun behind the scenes, like legal and tax and production and supply chain, and the things that aren't so sexy. Sure, it's fun to talk on podcasts all day, but there has to be a process behind what you're producing. I think that's the important part, because if you get that order and then you have not built the business behind the scenes, and you can't deliver, that was your shot. Beth said it, like you don't have the opportunity for multiple mistakes. And because this is a highly complex industry, very fun and very exciting, and I love this industry, but it's complex behind the scenes, and you need to be prepared for what could come up. So I just wanted to share that story, because no matter where you are in your journey, having experts behind you to guide you that have been vetted and can provide expertise is invaluable in the future of your brand.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Ron, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Please do. I would love to.
Okay, last year at this time, given the pandemic, everyone was talking about the retail apocalypse. Where do we stand on that now? At least, in thinking about the US market.
Yeah. So I love this question because it in some ways, this concept of the retail apocalypse is what generated this idea of retail pride. Like, because I work in an industry where people love working in stores, and I've hired thousands of people. I've opened all kinds of stores. I've traveled all over the world and visited retail stores, and people love what they do. And so when you see that headline of, that the death of retail, I actually took that very personally and said, oh, no, there's millions of people that work in retail and they love it. It might be evolving, but they love it and they're proud to work in retail. And I wanted to really find that space to lift them up and celebrate stores. And the reality is, yes, 2020 was a very difficult year, but in terms of where the industry sits today, the other headline that's often missing is that the significant majority of all commerce is done in brick and mortar retail. And just today, literally hot off the press, the National Retail Federation announced they had increased their estimate for the year for overall retail business in the US between 4.1 trillion and 4.4 trillion, up from where they had projected it forward. But of that 4.4, non-store and e-commerce accounts for 1.1 trillion dollars of that business, which means, and that's about 75% of the 4.4 is in brick and mortar stores. Non-retail, non-store, and e-commerce is 25% of the entire industry. So you hear all of the buzz about the growth of e-commerce and the death of retail. And yes, e-commerce is growing faster because the base was smaller, and stores grow at a smaller rate because it's a bigger business. It's a scale. But I love that even today they're saying, actually, retail is going to be bigger than we even expected. We're increasing our forecast because stores are doing so well. And that is a very true story. I will tell you that it's evolving, and you have to be really good at your game today. Like, mediocre retail is not at all the future, but great retail with great product and new designers and new interesting things and great people, that is the future of retail. And it is very alive and well and has a very bright future all over the world.
Well, that's great to hear, because I'm sure we've got some wonderful new emerging designers listening to us tonight that would love to get into some of these stores.
Sure.
So let me ask you, what's the biggest misconception that designers have about getting through to buyers?
I think the misconception is that you may have created something that you think is unique, but the buyers do their homework, and that buyers know exactly what they need for their particular business that they're purchasing for. A store owner, a buyer of a large chain, they've done their homework. And so the misconception may be you walk into the room and you think you have this great new idea, and the buying team may say, actually, that looks just like X designer, Y designer. We've seen that before. Have you done your homework? And a great buyer is highly aware of what's happening in the industry. And so the misconception could be that you may want to present something that you think they haven't before, and they have. And so do your homework. That's why I go back to my original comment about storytelling. If you've done your homework and you say, I see an opportunity here for this, and I know how to tell a story, and I have a great social media platform, I have ways to expand my brand, then you can walk in and be able to articulate that. But certainly the awareness of what happens on the buying team is very high.
You can't pull anything over on the buyers.
You can't. You definitely can't.
No. So in a post-pandemic world, where direct-to-consumer behavior has been amplified, where does that leave retail? What can emerging designers do to stand out?
Yeah. So this is where I think the future now, this morning I described it as like we all had this habit that, or kind of part of our life in March 2020 that was taken away from us. It's like retail was stripped away, and we all missed it in its own version. Like we craved it. We craved that human interaction. We craved shopping. We craved kind of the luxurious nature of just window shopping. And so if you, as you've kind of given that luxury back to people, then the excitement for new designers is even higher, because what happened is that people learned how to shop online for all the basics, whether it was groceries, basic tees, workout wear, casual things, hoodies. We've all learned how to shop online for that. What you don't discover in like an Amazon marketplace are all those interesting smaller brands that are only discoverable in retail. That's how you find them, is in potentially like marketplace types of stores, small pop-ups, multi-brands all working together like an intermix. That's where the magic of new designers and up and coming brands really happens. And I love this idea of sense of discovery of retail, the sense of storytelling, the sense of education, great people that do all of that every day. New brands and new designers, there's actually never been a more exciting time, because that's exactly what people are looking for right now. What in a world of commodity, they want new and interesting and exciting.
Yeah, and you just said it, because there's something that I always recommended the designers, during the Miami Fashion Week, is to work with the smaller stores, the independent stores, the specialty stores, the owners that have 1 to 6 stores around the country. Where everybody wanted to go to Barney's. So it was always about Barney's. Barney's.
Yep.
Barney's will kill you. You need to go, try to go to Saks Fifth Avenue or the Neiman Marcus, these big stores right off. First of all, it's not going to happen. You need to get that traction in the specialty store market. And the owners are much more forgiving and willing to work with you than some of the bigger, massive stores.
Yep. And I would agree with that. And they're also going to be better at promoting your brand. So if you're a small owner, like 1 to 6, I love that size, and you've left the showroom and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by your story, your product, whatever it is that you're creating. When that store owner then goes back and your product is delivered, they're going to tell your story to their customer. You end up in Macy's. There's nobody in Macy's that's going to tell your story. And as great as an account that is, and you may get a nice order, it's going to get lost in the shuffle of 2 to 6 floors, depending on what city you're in, of a lot of other product. No one's going to tell your story. And the hang tag or the sticker doesn't do it justice. Human storytelling is what will sell your product. So don't be afraid of the one store order of 12. Don't be afraid of that. Because that 12 turns into a sellout over a week. And they're like, oh my gosh, my customer loves this. I want more. And then 12 turns into 24, and it turns into 124, and turns into 2 stores and 4 stores, because the owner of that business knows you and has an appreciation for you. And customers love to hear the story of what they're buying. And it's because that customer tells their friends. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you look so pretty. Where's that top from? Oh my gosh, I got it at this store. And this is what inspired this print. This is why this shape is important. This is why this jewelry, was crafted in a certain way. That customer tells her friends, and the friends come and shop. Like, that is retail at its core. And it needs it needs new ideas all the time.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. So generally speaking, is there an ideal process of retail distribution, like, for example, independent, regional, or national, etc.?
Yeah.
What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, so my experience has been it normally starts at a regional level. So let me back up. The often brands that have stores in multiple parts of the US, for example, your product may be more suited for a warm weather climate, a cold weather climate, a Midwest client, an East Coast client. So there may be something where you would buy specifically for one part of the country that is for that demographic. And then it would say, well, that works really well. I'm going to expand it into more stores. So there's traditionally a test to see what happens, what's the response, probably a regional buy before it ends up in every store. And so same, don't be afraid of the small order, because the small order turns into more when it starts to sell out and builds. So I think don't expect a national order. Even when you hear about really big chains, they buy at a regional level as a test and see what happens.
I want to say something right on that, Ron.
Yeah.
Because so many designers have said to me that they're afraid of getting an order for 1,000 pieces and they won't be able to manufacture that. I'm like, nobody's going to give you an order for 1,000 pieces.
They won't in the beginning. They won't.
Don't worry about that. We'll work on your manufacturing. That's your supply chain. But let's get into these smaller specialty store chains for 12 pieces, 24, 100, just like you said.
Yeah.
That's the way to get into this market.
Yeah.
Nobody is gonna come off and order 1,000 of your dresses.
Yep. They won't. And here's what's important about that is that one order can turn into Instagram posts and can turn into social media expansion, because the first thing that a buyer's going to do is also look at your Instagram account. It's the first place you look. And so you need to be able to represent your brand in a nice way. You don't need 1 million followers, but you need to have a way from a website and an Instagram account that demonstrates who you are, a little bit about your history, why you did this. And then that small order turns into a post on social that turns into more followers. So then you start tagging the store that made the purchase, the store tags you back, and it starts to grow. But the small orders are a great thing to get started. And you learn, you sold 12, maybe you got an order for 12 and only 6 of them sold. Well, the way you're going to capture feedback is from that small business owner that said, actually, my customer didn't like this. I thought they were going to, it didn't fit. They don't like the way it feels, whatever. And so be gracious enough to accept that feedback and then change your product and say, you know what, I'm going to fix that. Thank you. I'm going to ship you 12 new ones that change that design aspect of it. And we're going to try again. That will get you a second order. Saying, well, I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. I believe in it, and walk away. You won't get a reorder.
Never.
Be open to feedback. Be open to it on social. Be open to it from buyers and customers, and then you can evolve into a product that just gets better every season. And that's probably one thing you say, Beth, to them too, is like, this was probably not going to be the final version of your product. This will evolve over time based on feedback. And it's important to be open to that feedback at every order. If you don't get any orders, be honest enough to ask why.
That is so important for designers to understand this. I know we all respect their creativity. They're the masters behind all of this, but listen to your buyers. Listen to the store owner. They say, well, I love that, but the sleeve didn't quite fit right, or something was wrong. Fit is everything.
Everything.
Fit is everything.
Yep.
I've had so many designers had beautiful collections, but they didn't know how to make patterns.
Right.
Therefore, nothing fit. It fit their model.
Right.
In the fashion show, or if they had their own store in whatever country they were in, it would fit their customer because they would tailor it, but then try to make that outfit for mass market or to ship, your 12 pieces to a store in the Midwest of the United States, and they don't fit, those 12 pieces are going back.
Correct.
Now you've got to charge back. Now
Right.
you're losing money. Now it's a problem.
Right. exactly. And you may not know why. So like that constant loop of feedback from buyer, customer, and designer is really important. And if it's really good, keep repeating. If it's not working, be open to evolve into it. And it may be color, it may be pattern, it may be fit, it could be length of a necklace, it could be anything. But that's you like on the artistic side, it's hard to say, but you are in service to your buyer, not the other way around. And that I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but for me, that's the mantra of like, we are, no matter our role, we are here to serve others. And that is, for me, it's leading teams, but as a designer, it's serving the buying team and the customers.
And the customer.
And the customer of like, what does the customer say? You're in service to a customer, not just kind of putting your pillar in the ground and saying, this is what I'm doing, or else. Doesn't, that may not always work. It works. No. It works in the highest end of luxury. That's the only place it works, is where you're so famous that you bid a handbag out, that's the handbag. I don't care what you say, that's the handbag. And then people usually buy it anyway. But very few brands have that luxury to do that.
And that's a long road to get there. And if you're an emerging designer in an emerging market, you need to listen to the people around you who are going to buy your product.
Correct.
It all started, what did I say in the very beginning? We love this industry, but we all need to make money at it too. Yep. You make money by selling your products, and you sell your products by putting out a good product that the customers and the buyers will want.
Yep. I mean, I'll just share one. I know we're out of time, but I'll share an example. Like there are some brands that were, the Intermix really wanted to carry that wouldn't sell to them. More famous designers like an Isabel Marant. It took years to build that relationship to say, we really want to have you in our stores. And so finally they kind of broke down and said, okay, fine, we'll let you sell this in 3 stores. And those 3 stores blew out of the product. And the next season there were 6. And then the next season there were 12. And I think today it's like 20 some odd of the 31 stores carry this brand, because even though the brand didn't want to, you have to deliver the sales. And they said, if they didn't sell, then we would never have added more stores. So there's this constant of the designer needs to make money, the store needs to make money, the margins are important. All of that is a constant conversation. So understanding the math and the profitability behind it is what gets you more stores.